Hi, we'll discuss about factory method pattern. The factory method pattern is a type of creational pattern. So in order to understand factory method pattern, we must first know about factory objects. Factory objects operates like a factory in the real world and creates objects. You have a factory which creates many things. You simply call that objects in this pattern, and it helps to make software easier to maintain because you have a easier to maintain because you have a several objects that present the functionality of certain things. So simply you in traditionally in Java, you when you create an object, you use a keyword new, and it is called a concrete instantiation, that very helpful when you have a very few subclasses in a inheritance relationship. When you have a two or three subclasses, so you often use a new keyword to create an object of that class. But when you have a many subclasses, like a real factory, in factory you may have a several and a tremendous amount of objects that created in the factory. So you must create the that simpler, that only to go to an interface, that you hide the implementation. Similar like a factory, in factory you only saw that certain objects are created, and we don't know about the implementation of that factory, that how the objects are created in real world. You can have several example of factories like a automobile or any, you can knife factories. You only saw that the cars and the vehicles are produced from the factory, but you do not know about the implementation of that factory. So simply when you have so many subclasses in the Java code or in the code, so you only define that you can only go to the interface, not on the implementation. So to create such objects, you need a separate factory method. So that helps to create an objects of that factory method. So this factory method also decide that which subclass to be instantiated, because you have so many subclasses. Similar as, for example, you have a knife is a parent class, and you have so many types of knife in the subclass. So what is the thing that create the object of that knife class? So you have a separate factory method that create that implements the which class that should be instantiated. This is also called a virtual constructor, because constructor is a special type of method that is used to initialize the value of the object. But in a virtual object, you can call it from the factory method, that is also called a virtual constructor. So you only one interface and have a many implementation. So how this will work? We have a code example, practical example. We know that in factory method pattern we have a one interface, and it have a many implementation. So we have a one interface called operating system. So it's, as we know that your interface is a collection of unimplemented or abstract function. So in this interface, we have only one unimplemented method, is void specification. So it represents the specification of the operating system. So we have implementation of that interface in the form of Android, in the form of Apple, in the form of Windows. We have a three implementation of that interface. For example, you have a freedom of choice to implement whatever in the form you can implement. So I implemented the specification method just as a Android is a powerful operating system, and Apple is a secure, and Windows I dislike it. So I got a factory method that decide which class to be instantiated. So we only go to interface, that and this method is helps to create if the user call interface is open source, we return it Android, and if the user call the close, we return the specification of the Apple, and if user call the any other specification, we return the window. So in the main factory class, we have a factory object. This called the factory method, and with the help of this factory objects, we call the factory method, and this time user call the open source, and we define that the open source is we have to define return the specification of the Android. So we only object dot specification. So it's simply this object of the factory object only return the value of Android. So we have to prove that with by running this application. So it's a powerful mean open source. So open source is the specification of we putting the Android. So Android is a powerful and is open source platform. So we have this practical example that one interface have many implementations, and one factory method helps to create and called by one factory object, and this factory object helps to create a object or creates the call the constructor and the virtual constructor of that object, that is called a factory method. And this pattern to code to the interface, not to the implementation. You hide the implementation from the user, just like a factory is called a factory method pattern. So we will discuss more patterns in the next videos. So if you have any question related to this pattern, you can ask in the comment section. So keep subscribing and keep watching our core concept. Thank you.